Very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Call the meeting to order. Declarations, conflict of interest? No. Approval of agenda?
Yep.
Moved. Second?
Just on the new business, Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
could we get a follow-up on the opening of the multi-use active transportation pathway, October 1st? Ramona, could we,
Like before we get started or add to?
on the new business?
Okay.
Is that all right, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
What did you want to go though?
Just a follow-up from the opening of the active transportation pathway along the Ontario Highway on October 1st.
Follow again.
I'll bring it up.
Okay. We have approval of the agenda. Do we have approval of the minutes? Vote. Second. Business arising for the minutes. Okay, we're going to move into reports. I want to thank the staff for being here as well today. Welcome back. Item A, anti-idling policy. Amon?
Sure thing.
Geez, can't see you there.
Sure, I'll set up. Good morning, everyone. So today, what we...
You can take your mask off. You can take your mask off.
Today, what I'm bringing forward is the anti-idling policy.
Yes.
So this is a really robust policy which would allow the staff and anyone using city vehicles and restrict them from idling unnecessarily. There are a lot of times on the road you see cars idling, and I think we should start internally with our own staff, council member, and move forward to the community later on. So this would be a step towards that. Having this policy would allow us to enforce people not idling. By people, I mean our own employees. Not only this would reduce the greenhouse gas emission, but it would also economically make sense for the city, as the city would save on fuel and diesel costs. I have added T3 Transit as part of this policy here. So what I require from you folks is to review this policy and give your recommendations. If there's something you would like to see in there, or if there's something you would like to see different in there, please let me know.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Armand, do we not already have a policy? Because I recall passing one here a number of years ago.
You do? It was Regina Wells who was the environmental officer, and I was chair of environment at the time.
And I recall having our
2002.
staff enforcing the,
That's why we had that signage up front there.
Well-
It didn't go beyond that signage up
so it's
front.
just a
Well, I
departmental policy?
think before we answer that question, maybe, Amon, I mean, since you had put the work into this latest policy, from a historical perspective, were you able to use that as a guiding document? And if so, what were some of the things that you built on, which would bring us to this point now?
So I looked at, of course, I looked at what the city had. There were some logos and stuff I could find, what we've used in the past.
Yes.
And I looked at other municipalities, what they have seen successful. I was in conversation with Public Works as well.
Okay.
So there was something about Cold Start, which was added into it. And with time, technology advances, and cars do not need that much time, vehicles don't need that much time to warm up, and all that has been incorporated into this policy to bring it up to the standards where in the past a diesel truck might need 10 minutes to warm up before it gets started. But now a newer vehicle just needs 3 minutes, a newer diesel vehicle. But something more than 5 years old can take up to 5 to 10 minutes. So incorporating all of that and having the newer technology and older technology addressed in the policy was something I did in this updated policy.
And if I may add, Mr. Chair, it was brought to our attention by Public Works wanting a policy to be developed and requesting that we work on that. So the policy that Virginia Wells would have developed,
Did you ever find it?
I didn't find it, and I've been here
How many years?
11 years, and it hasn't been active during that time that I'm aware of. But our fleet manager, Stephen McFadden, was who brought it up and said that they needed some guiding.
And he wasn't there when we brought it up first.
No, but he did talk to me probably a year or two ago, because I recall we had passed it in here, but, I'm trying to recall whether the policy was in the Public Works Department only. So meeting his staff, making sure that we're idling vehicles. He was trying to enforce that, he couldn't actually find the policy.
Okay, so here, this is an opportunity
just
for
put
us
it
to
on there,
revise it.
So first of all, I want to thank you for your work, Ramon. Having said that, Ramona, policy, again, can be interpreted as, again, as a guiding document. Should we go so far as to make this a bylaw?
A bylaw would mean that we'd be moving into the public realm with our expectation around anti-idling. I
Right.
think it would be, typically the approach we try to take is let's make sure we're walking the talk first, and then once we've sort of worked out those kinks and it's fully implemented,
Right.
to look at extending that request into the community. It will be a lot harder for us to enforce an anti-idling bylaw in the community, certainly than to manage it within our own staff.
Practice what we preach.
Yeah, I understand that. That's why I talked about a bylaw. So, why don't we do this? Why don't we do a 6-month probation period, and then have it come on, and let's do a review. So it gives you an opportunity to oversee the different departments, not just Public Works, Water and Sewer, Parks and Recreation, and then I'm sure you'll do your due diligence like you always do, and then let's come back here in 6 months with a bit of a synopsis, and maybe we want to look at some additional recommendations. As you know, the intended strategy doesn't necessarily coincide with the emerged strategy. One of the things I learned in public administration. So after 6 months, we'll come back and we'll review your findings, and then we might want to forge ahead with a proposed bylaw.
Well, personally, I have no problem with the bylaw. I think you need to have a bylaw.
I do too, but I think they need they need some time to, let's give them time to at least put it in play and see how it works out, and then go from there.
So, Mr. Chair, just to clarify what Ramona said, and I think we all understand, the bylaw applies to all city residents. What Ramona and Amon are talking about is a policy. So do you have a proposed policy already?
Right in there.
So we have that, we can formalize that through a vote here, and as the councilor, the chair said, try it out for 6 months, but when you go to a bylaw, it's for the whole city.
And we don't have that authority, so that's the other issue.
You have to check that with them.
I don't believe we have the authority for the whole city for internal operations, we would, but to mandate for the entire population, we don't have that authority.
What can we look at? Partnering with the province? Look at partnering with the provincial government, partnering with some of the utility companies that are in the city, like your maritime electrics and service providers. I mean, that would be a step in the right direction, I would think.
That's a discussion we can have, Mr. Chair, with the province.
Right, well, anyway, sorry, Terry, but Haman, I'm just giving you some, just some suggestions that you could examine as we move forward. Terry?
So was this policy for just the city?
City staff.
So that's why city staff and city government.
Yes.
We're not talking about the residents that come down now.
No,
But a bylaw-
that bylaw would do that.
That's what,
We can't
what the
go
chair is
back.
talking about.
What I'm talking about is I want maybe a bylaw, right? Let's see how we get along first, and then let's look at some partnerships with the province and some of these major user groups, and try to work with them. I think that'd be a good beginning. It'd be a good start. and Amon's going to do his due diligence, and he's going to evaluate and assess things as we move along.
But right now, just for clarity, this is our city policy, which will be impacting our own operations, not externally. So the policy will give us that authority to work within. And if you want to test out, well, see how it works, we can. Again, going on our own operations, Mr. Chair, I don't believe we have that authority, but we will have a chat with the province to see.
Yeah, let's explore it. Nothing,
So-
the old saying is true, nothing gained, nothing venture, nothing gained. Go
I
ahead.
understand, Rick, you want to implement this for city government. And
For
then
now.
you said, well, you want to put it through a bylaw, the city bylaw, that people can't have their cars either. That's what you said.
Well,
So if I got a child
yeah,
in the back seat,
right.
and I want to keep them warm, and I'm in
Right.
the parking lot,
Right.
waiting for my wife, I can't have the car either, keep the child warm.
If
Well,
you
no.
bylaw for that, no.
No, I mean, I'm talking about now, is I'm talking,
Government, we're good.
no, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is major vehicles, these large vehicles like your Maritime Electrics and some of these vehicles. I'm not talking about the situation that you just referenced. I'm talking about province has a lot of vehicles.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm looking at. Like we
Commercial,
got,
you're talking commercial.
I'm talking commercial, I'm talking, institutional, those kinds of vehicles. So I think we have to lead by example. So, anyway,
Approve the policy.
pardon me?
Yes,
Today,
policy's the first step.
Approve the policy.
Yeah.
I'm for it,
I'll second it.
yeah.
Okay, thank you, Iman. Good work.
Yep.
Do you have to do a resolution for that policy?
Yeah, we'll do a resolution.
Okay,
It'll go to council commission.
okay, good.
Okay. EV design exception to decalling policy, Ramona?
Okay, so as you know, we've purchased 2 electric vehicles. They're now here with us at City Hall. They're behind the building. And just before we get into the report, if there's councilors that want to use those vehicles for city business, we do have a mechanism in place to do that, to allow you to take them out and you can do some reward events or whatever you'd like with them. So they are available for use now. We just require a copy of your driver's license to have a record, and you have to book the vehicle. So just wanted to make sure you knew that that was an option.
Okay.
The situation we have here is that we would like to decal the electric vehicles in a slightly different way than we would do a normal city vehicle.
Okay.
And we do have a decal policy that dictates how all city vehicles look, and I've attached that to the report.
That's under visual identity policy, is it?
It's part of our visual identity policy. So basically, we're asking, and it is required, if we want to make an exception to that, we do have to seek resolution of council for an exception to that. We would like an exception in the case of the electric vehicles to do more wrapping. What we're kind of thinking is that we would have one that was more like had a full wrap that looked like a promotional vehicle that we would use more for events and different educational opportunities, and one that would be more closely branded to as a city vehicle, but with a little bit additional to know that this is an electric vehicle. It's just something we want to promote, make sure that people know they don't look like odd different cars, they just look like cars, so we just wanted to make that differentiation between them.
So it's just an exception for the electric vehicle.
We're just looking for an exception.
That's great.
And that doesn't mean, like, re-elect Mayor Brown for it.
Gotta watch that.
Yeah, it would be in line with sort of our sustainability style, yeah.
And Mr. Chair, I did get a letter from your friend, the Honorable Steve Myers, and he says, first, I want to thank you for the purchase of electric vehicles in our efforts to reduce the effects of climate change. We must create more sustainable transportation option for Islanders. So, we're going on the right path, or we're on the right path. EV.
Anything else, Ramona, on that?
Nope, just looking for a motion that we
Sure.
accept.
I'll move that.
Moved by Councilor McCabe, second by Councilor Rivard. Motion carried. Thank you, Ramona. Okay. Food Council, support community fridge project. Katrina.
Thank you. So many of you may be familiar with the new community fridge that's gone in. It's over by the Sherwood Bingo Hall in the parking lot there. It went in August. So the fridge, if you're not familiar with the model, basically it's out in the parking lot in a little enclosed shelter, and it's available 24/7 to members of the public. It's operating on a take what you need and leave what you can model. So the organizers of the project coordinate donations and purchase donations with food donations with monetary donations as well to stock the fridge. And it's also possible for members of the community to stock the fridge with donations given that they abide by the regulations that have been set out by the organizers. So that's essentially what it is. They've been having a ton of uptake since in the first month of operations. They provided over 400 prepackaged meals, so those donated by restaurants, and approximately $3,000 worth of additional food. So they did approach the Food Council. You'll see that there's a letter attached to your package requesting $1,000 in funding. So they are actively seeking more sustainable sources of funding that will see them through into the future so that they have a reliable donor base. However, because they've seen such quick uptake on this, and they haven't been operating for very long, and they're all volunteer run, they are finding that to keep things moving at the rate that they are, and I think especially into the winter where, you know, there'll be less donations from farms and things like that, but they do need some extra funds. So that's where the request for the $1,000 is coming from. That $1,000 they estimate would help them stay in operations for approximately 2 months. The Food Council chose to forward this to you guys, to the Environment and Sustainability Committee, because it does align with many of the city's food charter priorities as well as goals within the ICSP. So it is for that reason the recommendation that this committee approve a donation of $1,000 to the community fridge. And those funds are already within an existing budget, sustainability operational budget for 2021.
Thank you for your report. So the Food Council is making this suggestion.
Yes,
Has the Food Council approached the province? You know?
approach the province
Yeah.
for funding for
Yeah.
this. No, they
No?
haven't. I don't know, I assume that perhaps the community fridge project may have approached. They've approached a variety of organizations that may or may not include the
Can we,
province, but
can we get a copy of who they've approached?
I can certainly see if there's any information available.
Yeah, I'd like to have, you know, I mean, I have no problem supporting it, but I'd just like to have an idea of what their budget is. I mean, the project's not that old, it's only a couple of months old, but I'd like to see what their cost is from an operational perspective, what their expectations are, who are some of the groups that they've approached, and did they approach the province? You know, I was there for the opening, and the province was all there. There was a bunch of officials there speaking. So, you know, it's great that they participated in the opening ceremonies. I just wonder if they're making or help making a financial contribution. So I'd like to try to find that out.
Mr. Chair, you were at that opening ceremony.
Yeah, I was there.
And there was Sean Casey, there was James Alward, the city was there, the Lieutenant Governor was there too.
Brad Trevor's, they're all there.
And
So
Katrina, I'd like to say, I want to thank the Food Council and your own work on this. I've been down a couple of times. People are down there donating. It's kept very well managed. It's clean. And we have to, a big thanks has to go out to the Parkdale Sherwood Lions Club because it's in their parking lot. And they're also caretakers of it. They do some cleanup around it. But the a big thank you, a large thank you has to go to Sandra Sumel, who created the idea, and I give her lots of credit, and everyone that's associated with it. There's only one issue I have. They have 2 green bins on the back lot up for the corner lot of Queen and Connolly Street, and I don't know who's cleaning it up, but there are boxes, and I mentioned that to Sandra, and there's a plan in place. So could we just keep that in mind? It is very well managed, well taken care of, but it's just, I think that the neighbors may say, well, who's taking care of this and it's all compost waste. It's not black bin waste. It's compostable. So it's a great project, Mr. Chair, and it's in your ward. And I think it's been an excellent project, and it's addressing poverty where it has to be addressed. Food in children's mouths and mouths of families. So thanks, Mr. Chairman.
just want to reiterate, I'd like breakdown as to, you know, who's putting monies down. It just, it'd be nice because like I said, there was many there at the opening ceremonies and they all participated and gave the accolades. Now I'm just wondering if they're helping out financially.
Yes, certainly.
Thank you. Thank you.
Did we put any money into it yet?
Nope.
So I'm moving to put $1,000. I moved to,
Well, to me, $1,000 is nothing. I think it's a couple thousand anyway.
yeah.
$1,000.
That's in our budget right now, but you're
Just-
right, Councillor.
I'm just going, the request is for 1,000. I move 1,000.
I'll move 2,000.
Okay, just,
You move 2,000?
okay, just hold
I'm
it.
sorry.
Okay, hold it.
I'll meet you in Rachel every 500.
$1,000. 2 months.
He's got
I'll
the
just
gavel.
I'll just note, Mr. Chair, that we would have enough for 2,000 in the
Yeah.
budget to do that, but I will say that that would mean potentially something else that we would want to do later in the year may not get done. Not that we have something identified yet, but that this would.
The request is for $1,000.
$1,000.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, no.
Absolutely, I just wanted
I'm
to
sure we can find
acknowledge
$1,000
that.
in the budget.
I move 1,000.
Okay, before we do that, Katrina,
Well, the 1,000 you already had, so it's another.
Folks?
$1,000.
folks,
Yeah.
Katrina, you did say that this was for 2 months, right? The $1,000 was
That's
for
their
2 months.
estimate. Yeah,
So the $1,000 will carry them for the next 2 months, right?
that's what they're.
Okay, so that's why I suggested finding out as to what their budget is from an operational perspective and who's making financial contributions. So we'll have a better understanding too, because we might have to build some money into next year's budget, right? So we can foresee what the challenges are, and that's why it'd be nice to have additional information.
Certainly.
I think I think, Mr. Chair, you're asking for the money now. I don't disagree with getting that information,
Yeah,
but I think you can okay $2,000 with that information coming back. I think they need the money. They're gonna need it on the letter.
Okay.
And I mean, we've never had this much conversation for $100,000. We're asked for all
That's
this,
right.
and we're asking for like $2,000 and we want all this information, like.
So what do you move?
No, I want-
$2,000.
Second.
yeah. No, we want the information so I have a better understanding who's, yeah, it's nice to have that, so.
I'm sure we stand up. if-
Okay, so, Ramona, I want to come back to what you said. Like, how, as far as our budget goes, how much, do we have enough money?
We have money in our food budget. We set aside 10,000 a year for food initiatives. We do
Right.
have some other things that we're looking at, but we can find the other $1,000 if we want to move to 2,000. And I'm just noting that it might mean something down the road we won't get to do,
Just
but
remind us
that's.
that we upped this for
Yeah.
1,000 and you gotta.
If something comes up in the future, let us know.
Exactly.
We need to go get more money, we will.
Moved?
Gotcha.
Yes, second.
Okay, motion carried.
Okay,
Thank you, Katrina.
2,000? Yeah, okay.
Okay, green space, Alistair.
Just before you move on,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I'm just wondering, and I read through it, and it's all good information, there's no question. I just wondered, to me, this is a Parks and Rec issue, not environmental sustainability. In terms of reference, I don't see any of this under the terms of reference.
Well, what we're looking to do here is, we're looking to create a charter for the city. So green space is not just Parks and Rec, it's looking at it broadly and to see what enhancements, improvements we can make. And I see this committee being the lead so that whatever this committee recommends and is approved by council, then it'll be implemented by Parks and Rec. Like we're the visionaries.
That's
And,
good, but we want to check in terms of reference, it's not in there.
pardon me?
This is not in your.
It's sustainable,
Yeah.
and being progressive.
Parkland and preserving parkland and how much parkland?
Yeah.
It's not environmental sustainability, it's parks.
Yeah, but
Sure,
we're,
Unless somebody wants to argue with me, nothing wrong, but I've checked in terms of reference.
yeah, I
If
know.
the committee agrees today that this is going to be forwarded to Parks and Recreation, that's the recommendation.
What's
And
that?
it is a
The
component of
recommendation
our.
is to go to Parks and
Okay.
Recreation.
I understand
Okay.
that, but my question is, why is it here in the first place?
Okay, Mona?
Because of the integrated community sustainability plan, and that's what is a responsibility of our department, is to support departments, to do it ourselves and also support other departments in implementing that sustainability plan. So just similar to like when we did the green stormwater management research, we bring forward what are some ways to help us move to a more sustainable way of managing stormwater that way, and then we present it to this committee as a, here's some ideas generating, and then that moves to the
But that's
committee
under
of
your terms-
responsibility.
That's under your terms of reference.
Right, but it moves to, and it is under our terms of reference in that we work on joint cross-departmental projects, we conduct research. This is just us bringing forward research that would then be forwarded to the Parks and Rec.
From what I read here, anyway, I mean, it's good information, but from what I read here, I don't find where it's under the terms of reference, and what I find is different committees are straying into other committees, and we've talked about this before, following our terms of reference.
Yeah.
And I find, although it's great information, and yeah, it can go to Parks and Rec, but I do find that this is under the Parks and Recreation terms of reference. And it's up to that staff and management to make those recommendations.
And we can do
Anyway,
this, we
I
can
mean,
do
it's
this
good
at the
information.
operational level instead. I mean, we can provide this, do the research and provide it to Parks and Rec staff. I think the thought only here is to bring forward ideas to this committee for discussion, but I understand what you're saying as well.
But we do have, I want to go back to what you said earlier, is that we do have, that's all part of our terms of reference as well. Isn't that the whole makeup of what this committee's all about? In terms of the sustainability, the environment, and protecting those assets and improving those assets and taking it to another level? Isn't that what we're all about?
And Mr. Chair, you're right on.
So-
And it's also working outside of these silos. Let's
Right.
get out of these silos
Yeah.
and work more collaboratively, cooperatively, and that's what this is about. This is
Yeah.
more a guide to send to another department like.
Any department, any
department.
department.
So,
Yeah.
what do we want to do? Green space? and-
Well, what we want to do is we want to do an evaluation. We want to do inventory. We want to look at a lot of things and to see where we can make improvements and recommendations. And once those recommendations come forward, then you forward it on to the
Appropriate departments.
appropriate departments. I mean,
So, what I'm afraid of, what's going to end up happening, guys, is we're going to have all different committees start doing the same thing. We're going to start having committees making recommendations on what they want to hear from their residents, they want to do for Parks and Rec to do this, or Public Works to do that.
well, we do that
You got to
now.
stay within your term of reference.
Yeah,
You do.
yeah, but we do that now.
But working together,
We do that now.
cooperatively is a very, very important part of a city working, a city council and community working together.
That's right.
So the objective is to pass this and then forward it on to Parks and Recreation, correct?
Once we do our work.
There you are.
Yeah.
Simple.
It's not directly to them.
What?
This is, if the committee accepts this process or this idea,
Yeah.
it would immediately go to Parks and Rec.
Yeah. Perfect.
So we're not
Parks and Rec
going
have talked about getting more green space in our parks. Anyway, to do new subdivisions and because we find that there's just not enough
Yeah, well-
for today's standards.
Well, see, it's not just Parks and Rec, it's also planning, right? So what we would do, we would start it here and then make the recommendations to the appropriate departments, like planning, Parks and Rec, or whatever other department. So it's not just Parks and Rec. This is something that we would, again, do an inventory, we would be innovative, we would look at what other jurisdictions are doing and then promote it
So
from
what I
there.
see here is travel time standards between parks. I see the size of the parks, there's examples from Vancouver, there's example of travel time. Those to me are planning and Parks and Rec issues, not about today, though. You can dress anything up you want to say what's on our committee, but if you don't stay within our committee terms of reference, you're going to have a lot of problems.
We're 3
That's all
years,
I'm saying.
yeah,
I think it's good information. I do.
we're 3 years into our mandate, and I think we've done this cross-pollination more than once, and I don't think it's gonna stop. I think it's all part of working collectively as a city corporation.
Yeah.
Ramona, Mr. Chair, do we have to pass a resolution to forward this on to the department?
So the recommendation is, we're
Yeah.
that the committee review the application, research and forward to the Parks and Rec Commission, so it goes directly to them. If you agree with the concept, then it goes to them for implementation.
I agree with that.
For consideration.
So our work's done? Our work is done?
Yes.
More or less. Did you want more to, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I
That's
did.
what I say, you can't, like I say, it's good information. Where's the stuff?
Well, like I said, it's also, making recommendations to the planning department as well.
And Public Works.
And Public Works, so it's not just one department.
But that can come with, through that process, Mr. Chair, that as we begin the official plan,
Yeah.
all the departments will have input. So if it is the mandate to increase the size of parks or different configurations, then Parks and Recreation will put that as part of their official plan implementation changes.
Could I just ask,
Something
Mr. Chair, the Community Environment Integration Plan,
Yeah.
2019,
Yeah,
was that,
17, yeah.
yeah, so was that not talking about working in collaboration with all departments? Because we're talking about the environment,
Yeah.
we're talking about sustainability, so we're not just talking about one department, we're talking about all.
that's right.
So that's
That's what we're trying to do here.
What?
That's what we're trying to do here.
That's right.
And
So-
the updating of the official plan is an opportunity for us to, like, when you think about land management, yes, there's planning, yes, there's water and sewer,
Public
there's
works.
public works, there's environment sustainability. You can't look at land as just being fitting within one area. But I also understand we're talking about park space in the report, and we need to find that balance. I just think it is important that we have an opportunity to bring forward ideas here.
Well, I'd like, I have the terms of reference up here, and I see the Parks and Reference, and I don't see it in terms of reference for environment. Yes, they do have a term of reference for community sustainability under the ISO plan.
Right.
But in terms of reference, the very first one in Parks and Recs, to oversee and support the development of parks, recreation opportunities that strive to enhance the quality of life of people who work and live within our municipality. It continues to go on high quality recreation opportunities. I have the environment sustainability.
Does that talk about watershed management or anything?
Watershed, it talks about.
Because that's about this.
To work with the city departments on stakeholders on climate change mitigation, adapt some projects where appropriate, develop and support Sarah Food Council to work on projects related to food security. To oversee the administration and enforcement of the city's cosmetic pesticide bylaw, like all things that we've adopted.
Yeah.
But this one's not under that, and I mean, anyway, I just think that, and not just this department, I just think there's times where other chairs aren't reading their terms of reference, they don't know them, and then you start to flow into the other departments. Anyway.
Terms of references are used as guides on how we operate our standing committees. Sometimes those guides are flexible. I think that this community integration and sustainability plan is very important for the whole city and all departments. So how we work together is what we're doing right now.
But you don't think the Parks and Rec staff are working on the same plan,
Yeah.
sustainability plans? They're working- So you got two staff and two departments working on the same thing.
And I hope they're working with Alistair, and I hope they're working with Jessica, and I hope they're working with Katrina.
And we are, at the
Yeah.
staff level, we are working together.
Yeah.
It's more, we just want to make sure that some of this information's coming up to
we-
this.
We want to come in with a plan for all departments, and then
Now, I
for,
guess
for,
me,
and then
like I
for,
say, it's good information. But for me, I'm looking at it in the sense of, okay, if all the different departments are going to start cross-matching and just come up with their own thing and say, well, let's work on that, that needs to be done. I think there's going to be a lot of people working on a lot of stuff that is going to be repetitive.
And that's why this is being sent directly to.
no, hold it.
Well, that's the
Ramon,
motion, Mr. Chair.
no,
It has to.
yeah, but Ramon said this department already collaborates with other departments. So, that's what we've always done, correct? Okay, so it's not a new phenomenon, right? Okay, so what's wrong with this committee, doing the research, coming up with a bunch of recommendations based on collaboration with other departments, and coming in with something new, because it's all part of sustainability, it's all part of being progressive, it's all part of the environment, and it's for all departments. What's wrong with that? It's not just for Parks and Rec. It's for planning, it's for public works, it's for everything, right?
Fully agree with Mr. Chair. The environment to me and sustainability is the umbrella of what we're doing in this city.
Exactly.
So
So I just thought we were being proactive
If we
here.
have the Jessicas and the Katrinas and the
Yeah.
Mons working together with Frank, Richard McHugh, that's what you want. That's what we want.
But that's what they're doing.
And good. And this is a reflection in a written proposal or a written document that is coming to us to say, let's work together.
Yeah.
I would say it's just information that they're sharing with us, that these are the recommendations they want our committee to
Okay, so
support.
I tell you what,
as this moves
so the other
forward.
committees now, so other committees will start, other committees start saying, you know what, let's start giving some recommendations back to environment.
We'll take the
There
vote.
should be more.
I'm open with that.
Good.
Okay.
And water and sewer.
Yeah,
and
I'm open with
public works,
that.
And planning.
Yeah.
But we're going to allow the repetitive
Yeah.
staff doing the same work.
Well, that's
I
checking
think-
out the boxes.
For
That's
us,
ridiculous. What do you terms of reference for, guys?
Terms of
What are
reference.
terms of reference for?
For
You're
guide.
saying it's a guy, so in
Yeah.
other words, if there's something there you don't like, well, the heck, we're just going to move on anyway.
No.
So it's a guide, follow the guide.
Yeah.
If it is, follow it.
Yeah.
And that's
So-
all I'm saying, we're not following.
We are following the guide because we're working together as a collaborative team.
Anyway, let's move on.
So this is going on to Parks and Recreation?
That's the
You need a resolution?
That's the resolution, it's on there.
So,
Need a resolution?
are we not,
Move it.
just hold, we're not doing any more work on this?
Well, I mean, at the staff level, we're working with Parks and Rec on this, and we're working with Parks and Rec on the official plan. All departments are working together on the official plan, so this is just sharing
They'll
of
still be
that.
part of it as it moves, forward, Mr. Chair, they'll still be part of that development process. But it is going on in Parks and Recreation.
what is the end game? What difference to start here and keep going with what's happening? What's the issue?
Well, we're trying to see what we can do to make improvements and enhancements for all departments.
So is the staff of Parks and Rec.
Pardon me?
So is staff of Parks
Yeah,
and Rec.
I understand that, Terry. But,
So
but it's all part of what we're doing here as well, right? It's all part of our mandate, like Ramona outlined, was it 2017? Yeah.
But
So I
what
mean,
else
it's not
would you
nothing
like
new.
When you say, are we finished here? I'm assuming that this is ongoing, this is to start more
Yeah.
information, like there's always, you're going back to look at it to make sure that things are
No,
staying.
this will be sent to Parks and Rec staff, Parks and Rec staff.
We'll work with.
Yes, exactly, but I'm not sure, that's what I'm wondering, like when you said, are we done here? I'm just trying to understand.
Well, I thought we were gonna be doing more work as well.
More.
More work, more research.
Anyway,
That's what I thought.
We'll just do that at the staff level and continue to work with the staff from Parks and Rec.
it's a good recommendation.
Planning,
And those
planning,
Parks and
public
Rec.
works, water and sewer. It's not just one department. I'll reiterate that. It's all departments, right?
Like, Mr. Chair,
Sometimes what we find is that the departments that are really operational are very, don't have capacity to spend a lot of their time
That's
on
right.
research. So we just try to support, it really isn't like a, you should do this. It's we did some research after some conversations we had at the staff level, and here's the research that we found. It's not intended to be a directive, it's intended to be a support.
But why, so if that's the case, why does it need a resolution? Why does it
Pass
send
it
the
on.
information down to Parks and Rec?
We don't need to bring these kinds of reports to this committee. It's more like wanting to share some innovative ideas and research that we find.
But when it's through a resolution,
Yeah.
and the resolutions have to be followed. And I think the information's great, I think they give it to Parks and Recreation, let them do it.
Yep, and that's what the recommendation
and that's what the
is.
recommendation is. Mr. Chair, look at the title, Green Spaces Charter Research.
Yeah.
It's research.
Yeah.
Which is important. And then the third paragraph down, a 2015 review of municipal strategies gave the following suggestions for facilitating green space provision in compact city environments. Preserving green space, enhancing quality of existing green space, providing green space on redeveloped sites. And here's one, public works, greening difficult sites lacking green space. Narrow streets, that's public works.
Yeah, so show me under the terms of
Smart
reference.
allocation to increase visibility and visual quality.
So show me under the terms of reference where that is for environmental sustainability for dealing with.
Okay,
That's all I'm saying.
so again.
Is that
I
not
believe
in there?
No, what I believe is in collaboration, cooperation, this is a good
Send it
step.
to Parks and Rec, we're good to go.
And so it's already been moved and
Second.
seconded. That's all right.
Sure.
Take a vote.
Did you want to speak, Craig?
I'm good. Feels like a roundabout with no exits.
Pardon me?
It feels like a roundabout with no exits.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Anyway,
Good.
Okay. Tree planting on bypass highway.
So this was a request that Councillor Duran made at our last council meeting
Yep.
of our committee. So he was looking, the map's not great, I'm sorry about that, but we're looking at the section of the arterial highway between Bracken Point Road and Road. He was looking at whether there would be an option for tree planting along the lilac side of the highway, between the roadway and the back of the property lines. It's provincially owned, and we wouldn't typically do planting on provincially owned land unless we had an agreement in place.
Is that where the fence is?
Yeah.
There's always lots of,
Yeah.
And there are
so
trees.
that is provincial.
And I'm in, because I'd love to see the whole bypass, because I've been asking for that for the other way as well for a couple of years, just as a noise buffer for those residents.
Has anybody asked, I don't mean for our staff to do it, but did they ask their MLA or anything to plant trees?
Who?
The MLA of the area. Like, the problem is their own nursery.
Who, on that side, who's the MLA?
It's in there.
Sac Bell, is it?
Natalie, James, and Hannah, there's like a section, like there are different sections.
Yeah, I think it's Sac Bell.
Anyway, it's provincial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I just brought it forward, because it came up at council, so I wanted to share that information. If we were to plant, we would need an agreement in place. It would be a significant cost to the city, both in the planting and in the maintenance, and we do have capacity challenges in maintaining the tree cover that we have currently, but of course, we always want to support more tree cover. But again, it is provincially owned.
And there is a reason why, because of the salt and stuff on that highway, I know, because I did do a lot of looking into this earlier, that they're not sustainable, a lot of trees on the highway area.
Is that because it's lower than the salt?
I wish I was expert enough to be able to answer that question, but I just.
Anyway, I would, I guess ask them to contact the MLA. I think the problem's with the trees there.
Are we planting trees on the other side?
Well,
The bypass?
the transportation pathway, we-
Who's planting the trees there?
Where?
on the north side?
Yeah, yeah, on the north side.
Well,
Where?
transportation
North side where?
of the
Of
arterial
the,
highway.
the
Arterial highway.
arterial highway. Is the province doing that?
What section of the interior highway talking about?
So
The whole section, whatever we planted so far.
What we planted on our property.
Yeah, the only section that the city has planted is the section kind of between Pioneer and Kensington Road, and there's agreement in place with the province already on that berm.
And who owns the berm?
We own the property.
We own where we planted the trees?
That's why we cost shared the trail 50/50.
Yeah,
That's
so-
why we had to get Natalie in for 50/50, because that part of it's ours.
Well, any of the track,
And
yeah,
going down St. Peter's Road
Yeah.
is city property too.
yeah, but any act going down St. Peter's Road.
Into the city,
What?
back into the city.
The verb along there is also the city.
So,
But where you're talking about here is provincial.
can we get more information on that, Ramona, as to who owns what, please?
I think she has it now.
I mean, my understanding is the whole thing is the province except for the section that was referring to.
That is right.
Yeah.
Because I guess the other thing that's come up is problems on Riverside Drive down by the down by the energy from waste. Those
Yeah.
two roundabouts are provincial, so they're not doing the flower and so on like they used to. Same with the three that are in St. Peter's Road. They're not in flowers or trees, shrubs, not anymore either. So if the city wants to do it, go ahead. They're saying it costs too much to maintain.
Who's saying that?
Roads.
So,
Do we have that in writing?
I do.
You do?
Yeah, I asked to have the roundabout at the end of Upton Road pre-doctored, and we got a letter back from James Allward. It wasn't through me directly, it was through Gordon McNeely. And Gordon just
That's why they don't do the one by Heath.
The city wants to do it, the city can do it, but we're not.
It's too expensive.
So it wasn't through, I asked Gord talked to James got back to Gord, and said no, Gord is working.
And that's the thing that we're doing, is that, we want to do these roundabouts that we're doing, beautify them. Yeah, they're not, but it's quite a bit of liability,
So, Mr. Chair, here's where we have a green beltway that goes from Billboard Bridge right out to Upton Road. That's a green belt. And what intersects or what divides it is an arterial highway. So this is an area where our environment sustainability department can work with Parks and Recreation, Public Works, the provincial government on looking at a plan to develop some kind of a natural barrier, that's what we're looking for, to mitigate sound from vehicles that are on that highway. Like I think 40,000 vehicles use that section of highway per day.
Which section you have?
Right from Upton Road to the bridge, the arterial highway. So this is an opportunity for this department to work with our provincial counterparts to develop a plan, a green beltway plan that's divided right in the middle with a highway they call the arterial highway. And we could take into consideration these green spaces that are in the middle of these roundabouts. What do we want to do with them? Do we want to just make them look like a bunch of weeds, or do we want to beautify them to be part of a beltway that extends from east, what would it be, east to west?
So, the background of that is, I know there was staffing issues with it. We're going to start taking over all the city and province roundabouts.
No, again, what kind of plan can we work with our provincial counterparts? What do we want to do with them? It's not going to be all the city because it's not our property.
Right.
So let's ask the province, look, we have an issue of beautification, let's work together. So that would be public works, parks and recreation, environment sustainability. Who would I see as the lead? Environment sustainability, Mr. Chair. That'd be your department. Your standing committee.
So it wouldn't be beautification?
It would intersect with beautification, would intersect with parks and recreation, intersect with public works.
Well,
And
Get everybody involved.
And-
you know what, guys? You know what? I don't know. We just, the more I see this, the more we just complicate things.
Well, it is.
We're trying to do some work here anyway.
When you try to work with other levels of government, it can be complicated.
But you're dealing with someone else's property here.
Yeah.
So the response then to Councillor Duran is that he should be speaking to the local MLA.
Because it's not our property, right? So anything that's not our property, we don't get involved with. What? We don't?
It's in the city. We have a responsibility to work together. If you don't want to do that, then that's a decision of council, or this committee to make a recommendation to council. Not to work with other levels of government when we look at projects such as a green beltway from.
Well, I think to me, this particular issue is no different than Julie's. Julie's dealing with the MLA in her area for some projects she wants to do. So the council for this area deals with an MLA, tries to work together provincially. I mean, that's what Natalie and I did. We worked together.
On what?
The multi-purpose pathway that's in from the hospital to St. Peter's Road.
Okay.
We worked on it together. The cost share it came through remote through here.
Yeah, but it came through with
But
environmental
if she
sustainability
ever
too.
got 50% funding, we wouldn't have put that pathway in.
But the province and the feds are paying for a lot of those
The
active
feds
transit.
program wasn't up and running
At
then.
that time.
Okay, so,
That's why we
okay,
had
the province,
to-
so, okay.
That's
So,
what we asked
so,
for.
okay, so for example, now, on the active transportation pathway on Towers Road, so the MLA Sac Bell.
That's not provincial property.
No, but still, I could work with him because he's going to, province and the feds will kick money in
Absolutely.
to help pay for that.
Absolutely, you can. You can go talk to them, see what they say, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. No, so, I mean, it's great that, councilors are working with MLA, so do they go through the departments, or are they just working projects on the side? I don't know how it works.
Well, I went through this committee.
Right.
And then this committee agreed on the $483,000 that was left over from the Fitzroy Street project that didn't go ahead.
Right.
And then gave me permission to go to my MLA to see if she could cost share to make the project happen. We went to her, it did, then come back here, yes, we got cooperation, we got
Okay,
some
so-
funding, the council voted on the project and it went ahead.
And for me, I work with Minister Jameson, but I've also included Councillor McLeod as Chair of Public Works to come and be a part of any discussion we have, so that at least the information.
Which is being respectful.
Well, and he's
Yeah.
getting the information that we're trying to access and why it's important, and take it back to his committee. Those would be.
So active transportation can be advanced through this committee as well.
It's like a cookie sheet. Why
Right.
don't we try to work together with?
No, well, I'm just trying to understand it because,
Several MLAs that are part of that arterial.
yeah, I'm just trying to understand it, because one minute I hear it's not this committee, next minute I hear it is this
Well,
committee.
that was because that particular project on
Yeah.
Fitzroy Street
Yeah,
was through here. And a project that Ramona called me about when I was Chair of Public Works and asked if she could apply for funding for that. It was under, we had a number of projects under Public Works already applied for. Yes, fill your boots, so she went ahead, she was successful. Fitzroy Street project, as you know, didn't go ahead, so that money was sitting there. So then it was, okay, what do we do? So this was a project that I'd always wanted to see done, and we had asked the committee at the time, the committee agreed, we went and asked then the province through Natalie to cost share. They agreed.
Yeah.
So come back and get the okay, and the resolution went ahead. But that was basically just because of the Fitzroy Street project at the time. That's it. And it was, the land basically was city plus provincial, and that's correct.
So, Mr. Chair, that Fitzroy project, the money that we had for that was co-sponsored by the province. That's why we got the Ontario Highway active transportation pathway. We had an active transportation pathway that's going all over the city. I think we have to be working with our provincial government because they are the funding partner that can make this go forward.
Can we move into, keep going, only because of time, and you guys can have these conversations,
Yeah.
but I only have.
So, sure.
Planning,
So,
leave it with the council.
Okay.
thank you.
Under new business you brought up,
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I was at the active transportation task force meeting last night, and they talked about the opening. And I know that Councillor Bedard and some of us were privy to the emails that were exchanged with Ryan Bulger, who arrived at that ceremony in his wheelchair. And it was a difficult situation for him, and also the people that were, the participants that were there. So I know Councillor Bernard followed up with Mr. McFadden in Public Works to see where we're going with that issue. And I asked that we look at other facilities. But I apologize to Ryan because I didn't know that our system was in that bad of shape. And I know that the people that had, who assisted Ryan were not very happy that, they were put into this position. So
Well, I assisted
if I can just finish?
Jason Cody did, so.
So could we really look at maybe moving this forward, that we have to work with Public Works, or we have to work with other departments to review or do a thorough evaluation of our accessibility into our facilities?
Well, again, it's not this committee that you're talking about.
No, but,
First of all.
yeah,
Second of all, the chairlift that was tested before everybody arrived,
yeah,
the batteries died.
yeah,
So we know that now.
yeah,
Third of all, they're putting an elevator in now.
yeah.
In the process for now, so that's being looked at. And fourth, in the email that was sent to everybody, no, he didn't sit in all the way down, click, 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 click. Jason Cody and I picked him up, took him down to his wheelchair.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it worked on the way up. It's unfortunate that it died,
Yeah.
but that's what happened. So
He-
the batteries, we know now, batteries were from 2015. It's like you tested last week, it goes down, and all of a sudden, you're going to use it again, it doesn't.
He told a story last night. I'm just reiterated his story to this committee, and I want to make sure that we address this issue. If there's an elevator going
Well,
into,
That's Public Works.
because
It's Public
the
Works,
openings,
no.
yeah, but again, I look at cross-pollination, working with other departments. The activity was based from this committee, standing committee, and I'm taking it back to this standing committee to say, let's address the problem with the departments
It's already addressed.
responsible. But we have other facilities too that we have to look at with
Like what?
Marcia. I don't know, Marcia Carroll, you invited her out to look at the other facilities. So we're gonna look at those
Well,
other
we did.
facilities. Yeah,
I invited her to look at it.
yeah, so
So West Road has an elevator.
I know that.
This building has an
Yeah,
elevator.
we have Sherwood Rec
If
Center.
there's any concern, that's the one that I asked her to go.
Sherwood Rec Center.
Yeah. So, and McFadden's been dealing
Yeah.
with.
So again, I'm bringing up an issue that was brought up last night at the Active Transportation Task Force meeting and was addressed by Ryan Bulger and some of the other members that were there for the opening.
So we'll make sure it goes to Public Works.
That's, again, thank you. That's why I wanted to bring it up. Thank
okay.
you, Mr. Chair.
What was that?
That's everything.
Okay.
So we just have one.
We just had one item in camera, so,
Closed.
And I could all staff have to leave, please, except for one.
yeah. Okay, motion to move in a closed section as per section 119, section 1, section D of the Municipal Government Act, PEI. Moved? Second. Motion carried.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, staff. Keep up the great work.
Did you miss us, Jack?